Welcome back to the channel and welcome to today's video. Now today's video is sort of like a two-part tutorial. What we're going to be making is posies. Now posies is just a small collection of flowers little children give them to their mums every day, and I thought, well, it's Mother's Day, why not make some flowers for mum? So in this video I will teach you how to make the rose and the daisies, and I'll teach you how to put them together into a posy. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you the materials that you'll need to make it. Now I've got them all here in front of me, and we'll go from there. So first thing you'll need is some yarn in about an 8-ply, which is a light worsted or a 4 weight. I've used cottons and cotton acrylic blends. I will show you them in more detail once we start crocheting. I've also used a 3mm hook. I'll show you that in more detail when we get going. That's all you'll need to do the actual crocheting part. You will also need scissors, a wool needle, all that kind of stuff in your little bag. Once you've done that, then we need a hot glue gun. We need flower stem wire, or it's 22 gauge wire if you don't have access to floristry equipment. And you will need some flower tape or paper tape. This is a specialised product that you should be able to find in a craft store. It wraps things together and it's got glue included in it, so it sticks to itself. Things that might be helpful will be greenery from plastic flowers. If you don't have that, you can use green pipe cleaners or even crepe paper that you've cut out. Just be creative, it doesn't matter. Also, you would like some small paper doilies. You can usually get these from party supply stores. These ones are about 12 centimeters across, fairly cheap, and you can get them in big packs. You will also need some buttons of various sizes. This is just a pack that I got years ago, so whatever buttons you have, but make sure they have 4 holes in them if you can get them, because that's what we need to be able to make the flowers. And as a special little treat, the actual daisy pattern that I'm going to show you can be made into miniatures for jewellery or for doll clothes, which is entirely possible. These have been done with sewn cotton and a 1mm hook. So that being said, let's get into making some. The first one we're going to make is the Easy Crochet Rows. Now this is it all made up, as in the first stage. As you can see, it spirals around. You could even make a wind spinner out of it. But that's the one we're making. So first I'm just going to show you what we're going to use. For this one I am using rainbow cotton. Now this is from Hobby. This is 100% cotton and is 8/4. My understanding of the 8/4 is it's 8-ply and you use a 4mm needle. Please let me know in the comments if I'm wrong, but that's what I understand it as. And I'm using this nice red colour. I don't think it has a name. No, it doesn't. It's just a rainbow. So, but that's the lot number if you wanted to look it up. Alright. And the hook I'm using is actually one that's a bit small for the cotton. I am using a 3mm hook. It might work out for you better as a 4, but that's what works for me, and that's what the other one is done in. So I'm just going to write down the instructions for the first row. So we'll call it Crochet Rows. Okay, number 1, slip knot, chain 40. Now you can do more, but this is the bare minimum of doing. So first thing we want to do is make our slip knot. So you go over, short edge here, twist them together, and then over the top. That is how I do a slip knot. You might do them differently, it doesn't matter. And then we want to do chaining 40. So just put your yarn over your hook and pull it through. Yarn over your hook, pull it through. Yarn over your hook, pull it through. I find it easier to hold the knot, keeps it taut, keeps your tension the same for each one. So I'll be back when I've done 40 of these. That's my 40 crochets chains completed. Next thing you want to do is, so you see the V's here. This is the right side of our chain. We want to turn it over and we're going to work into the back bumps, and they're like a single bump on this side, 2 on that side, single on that side. So we pick up a loop and then we count back 3 of the side loops, and we're going into the bump that's after the 3rd one. And you go like that, and we're making double crochet. Now this, make sure we don't split the yarn. There we go. So double crochet, 3 on the hook, pick up a loop, pull through 2, pull through 2. Now we're going to do V-stitches, but they're a little bit different. So we chain 1, this is your repeat, okay? Pick up a loop, we're going to skip 1 bump, go for the next bump. And in this one, we want to put double crochet, chain 1, and then another double crochet in this, all in the same loop. So that is your repeat. Hopefully you can see that. Chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the same loop. So it's giving you a space and a V-stitch. And you want to repeat that all the way along. I'll do another repeat. Pull a bit more string. First part, chain 1, pick up a loop, skip 1, go to the next one. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet again into the same loop. I'll move my finger in a minute so you can see, and then a chain 1 at the end ready to start the next one. So we're going to do this all the way along, and I'll come back when I'm at the end to show you what to do right at the end so that it mirrors this end. Once you make it back to here, this is the knot. This is the one we skip, and this is the one we want to put our last DC in. And this is just a single DC, no chain, no other parts. So that's the end of the second row, and as you can see, it's twisting up nicely. That's what we want. So what we want to do now is we want to chain 1 and turn, but I'll just show you, I've written all that down here. Yes, it's a little bit scribby, but it is correct. I will show this at the end of the video as well, just in case you're missing it. So on to the next one. What we need to do, chain 1 and then turn. Then we want to slip stitch into first stitch. Then we want to do 5 DC shells. Now I will show you that in each chain 1 in V stitches, and then a slip stitch in chain 1s between the V stitches, between the V stitches. Now I will show you that. It looks like scribbling, but it is correct. So we've chained 1 and turn. Now we want to slip stitch into our first stitch, which is the DC we did last. So just go like that and then pull that loop through that loop. That's all we're doing. Next thing we want to do, pick up a loop, and this is our first V stitch. See these? These all are V's. Our first V stitch, you want to do 5 double crochets. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now shells are usually always an odd number because it makes it better for doing a next row and they look more even. So that's our first shell done. That's what this says here. Slip stitch to first stitch, 5 DC shells in each chain 1 in the V stitches, which is what we've just done. Then you want to go between the V-stitches and just do another slip stitch. What this is doing is making your petals, and then you repeat that instruction all the way along. So this is our next V-stitch, and just do it from where the slip stitch is. You don't have to chain up or anything. You just carry on doing 5 DC shells in each V-stitch. And 2 more. 1 and 2. Now I'm not going to sit here and do all of the shells. I will come back when I've got to the end and I'll show you how to finish it off. We are at the last 5DC shell, and as you can see they have all twisted around the central chain that we started with. What we need to do now is what we have, this is the turning chain, this was our first DC, and this was our first chain 1 before we started doing V-stitches, if you remember. So we need to do a slip stitch into the chain 1 just to finish that petal off, and then we want to put 5 DCs into this loop that between the turning chain and the first DC. It becomes a petal right at the end, and it also allows us to start the rows with it off on an angle, if that makes any sense. It will look better when we do it up. So that's 3, 4 and 5. And then to finish this off, because this is our last bit of crochet we're doing on this flower, I usually do 2 chains, and then we want to get our snips, and I need a fair bit to sew this up, so I'm going to cut on the other side of my hand like that and then pull it through, and that gives us a knot at the end and a decent amount to sew it up. I've written that down here, what we just did, and all it needs at the bottom is to number 4, chain 2, cut yarn with longish tail. I would say 20 centimeters approximately. Secure in. And that just means pull the loop through the last chain 2. And that's all we need to do for actually crocheting our flower. The next part of this flower will be putting it together on the wire with the wrapping. So I'll be back with that once I've done the other flowers. For the next flower, we are going to be doing the Crochet Daisy, which is this one here. And we will need the same hook that we used for the rose, which is the 3mm. And we're also using the same yarn, but in a yellow, so that's that one. This is a mix, but you can use pure cotton. And this one here, which is also a mix. But they work well. You've got to have at least 50% cotton for the flowers to hold their shape properly. So we'll put that one away. I have also written the first instruction. So with the yellow, we're going to make the center of the flower. We're going to do a magic ring, single crochet 6, and then use an invisible join to close the row. And we want to leave the ends because what we're making is so small, we need to have a handle. Okay, if that makes sense. We need something to hold on to because the crochet itself won't be big enough to hold on to. So first thing you want to do is pick up your thread, and we're going to do a magic circle. So cross there and then across. So you want the cross on the top of your fingers with this one going over that one. We go under the first and pick up the second and then turn it over. And then you pick up this, which is your longest thread, and pull that through. It's a little bit awkward to show on the camera, but hopefully you got that. And I take my fingers out and it will now hold itself with the ring. This is my short thread, and I've got the long thread in my hand. So that's our magic circle. And then all we're doing with the magic circle is single crochets. So that's just pick up a loop and then pull it through both. Back to one on the hook. Go and pick up a loop, pick up another one and pull it through both. I like to hold the work so I've got, something to hold on to. So we'll just do 6 of these. We've already done 2, so it's 4 more. That's 3, 4. You see them there? You count the V's, you'll know how many you've done. 1, 2, 3, 4. The one on your hook doesn't count when you're counting. If that made sense. 5 and 6. Like so. So put your finger on there so it doesn't get any looser. And then you want to keep this straight and pull this string when it pulls. There we go. Now it's coming. You don't want your work to twist up as you pull this. And pull it behind and I will show you. See how it's curled in? So that's pretty good. Now, against all what you think, we now cut this thread because we are going to do an invisible join. Pull the thread out of there so it's like that. One string coming out of the last stitch we did. And then make sure this is going the right way so that you can keep it tight. Like that. Now, somewhere around here, there it is. I have a wool needle. Now, it's dark in the middle because I've been using it, and my hand oils make it go dark. You can clean that off, but it doesn't go onto the yarn. It's not dirt, it's hand oils. So, thread this up. If you have trouble and it keeps flowing out, fold it over the eye, like so, and then wiggle it through. This one's not really cooperating today. No, now it's split again. Let's do that again. I don't like wetting the end because it collects dust and then, or dirt or dust or whatever you want to call it, and then it makes your work dirty. So for a magic, an invisible join, we're coming through the back of the first stitch with your wool needle, and then we're going under both loops. Hopefully you can see that. And pulling that through. Now we're coming from the back so that we can go over that bump right there and hide it. So pull that, and then we want to go back in the hole we just came out and come out. And just let me get it in and I will show you. We've got to go, there we go, through the stitch. So we're going in between that V and we're out through a stitch. And what that'll do, when I pull it down, it'll make a V. This is the one we just made right there. So now we should have 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and our join is number 7. So we have 7 what looks like stitches on the outside of our magic circle. So now we just take the needle off and we just tie these two together at the back, and that will keep your circle closed, and we'll move on to the next bit. This is our finished center. It looks very neat and even at the front. If we turn it over, I've just tied the center to the back so that it's all neat, and it also gives us something to hold on to, being the ends. So the next step, there's only two rows in this flower. We're going to use the white, and every bit is done in the back loops of what we just finished. We join with a slip stitch to any back loop. Doesn't matter where we start. I do prefer to start with the one just before the knot where we finished, but your choice. You chain 2, you double crochet in the same stitch, chain 2, and then slip stitch into the same stitch. So you got 3 things in the same stitch, and then you slip stitch to the next stitch. That in the brackets is the whole petal, and we repeat that 7 times, and you end off and pull it towards the back. Let's actually do that so you know what I mean. So first of all, we're going to do a slip stitch show short end over your finger, grab the long end, twist them over and over the finger, and pull the back over the front. That is all we do. Put that on your hook. Now, we pick any one that you like. Like I said, this is where my knot is, so I like to do the one before the knot. That way, where I finish this isn't actually going to be on the knot, if that makes sense. So first thing I'm going to do is a slip stitch join, which is just that loop through that loop. And we're going to pull this knot a little bit tighter so it gets smaller. So we go 1 and 2. Pick up a loop, because this is now the double crochet. In the same loop, we do the double crochet, 1 and 2, and then we want to chain 2, 1 and 2. We bring that down back to the same loop and do a slip stitch. So that there is the first petal completed. Then we want to slip stitch, if we can get into it, yes we can, to the next stitch. And that start off the next petal. And with that, I'm going to do one more, and then I'll go away and finish and come back and show you how to do the end bit. So that's 2 chains there, pick up a loop, back into the same hole or same stitch. This is a double crochet, pulling through twice. Then we want to chain 2, 1 and 2, and then slip stitch back into the same hole. And we will slip stitch the next one to keep us going. So I'll keep going on this, and I'll be back when I've done all 7 petals to show you how to finish it off. As you can see, we actually have 7 petals, and I've just done the chain 2 to finish this off. We go back into the same hole like so and slip stitch, and then this is the end. We're not going to join it to the other one, so we just do 2 chains, get their little snips, and we're going to cut it over there and pull it out. And then we want to come into the back and pull it tight as we can, and what that does is it hides the knot to the back. And that is our flower done, and it does match our other flower. So we now have 2, even though that yellow is slightly different colour. Now, the next part of this video will be how to put them onto the stems, but first I wanted to show you that it is possible to do the exact same pattern and do it for earrings or doll clothes, and that is what we just made. And these have been done with sewing thread. Right, so I'll just put them on the table. Hopefully some of them at least will turn the right way up. So to make those, I used this thread here, which is 100% polyester. It's done by a Goodman, and I'm pretty sure this is jeans thread. I'm not totally sure on that, but I think it's jeans. It's a heavy duty thread anyway. It doesn't have it written on it. No, it doesn't. I didn't think it did. But it is a polyester, and then for the crochet I used a 1mm hook. And these will come with a cover, so if you ever find one of these, that's what it's from, and that's the size of the hook I used. If I put my hand under it, you might be able to see the hook. It is a very small hook. There you go. Now you can see it. Anyway, so that pattern we just did is what these are done with. So feel free to do them and make earrings and doll clothes. And next we'll move on to putting it all together. Here's what we are going to make with the flowers we just finished. They are called a posy. You don't have to make these with them. This is just what I'm making with them. So I'll leave them up there as a reference. So what you'll need is you'll need one of your roses that we just made. You'll need 2 daisies. You will need some flourished flower stem wire, which comes, you'll find it in a craft section. This is what it's called, and it's about 46 centimeters long. It's a 22 gauge wire, so if you actually have wire you could use that. This has just got cotton covering it, so it's a bit easier with the glues and stuff like that. You will also need some flower tape. Now there's two different kinds of flower tape. There is the plastic and there is the crepe paper one. And I'm not sure how the actual mechanism works, but as you stretch these, it releases a glue and it sticks to itself, which makes it really easy for wrapping artificial flowers. I like to use the plastic one. So that's what they are. They might be called something different where you are, but that's what we call them. You will also need a hot glue gun. You'll need a good pair of scissors. I also had some fake flowers or artificial flowers, and I've taken them apart to use the pieces. So I've got some calyxes here, I've got some leaves here, and I've got some lighter leaves here for the daisies. So we're going to use those. You don't have to use these. I had them, so I'm going to use them. So, and a wool needle. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to put together the rows. When you've made your rows, you should have finished with a long tail, which I've just threaded up on my wool needle. What we do now, you turn it over and you're going to work all of this from the back, and you're going to start rolling the rows up. And you want to keep sewing through the base chain that we started with. That's your anchor. So you just keep taking stitches through, wiggle the needle through and roll it around the base chain, wiggling it through. So you keep doing this all the way, and when this like little disc of chain gets too big, you can just go halfway to the middle, as long as you're catching the outside to this spiral that you're doing. So I'm going to keep doing this until I get to the end, and then I will show you the next bit. This is all it is, round and round and round. I got to the end, and like I said, it was getting hard to get through the middle, so now I'm just going from the outer edge to the middle, and I'm going through the last bit and going back into the mess of the middle and pulling that tight. Pull the needle off and just tie these two ends together, just like that and that. So now we'll turn the flower over so you can see it has made a spiral rose. Very pretty. The next thing we need to do is we get a button. Now I have this pack of buttons. It's just an assortment, and I usually try and find one that has 4 holes that my needle will fit through. So it looks like there's one there I can use, like this. And what we need to do is we need to get our wire. Now this wire is half the size that's in the packet, and for the rose itself I cut it again, so it's only this long. So we will measure that so you know how long I'm making it. It is 12 centimeters long. So we want to put the button the way you want to see it afterwards. You poke the wire through there, kink it over, and come back through an opposite hole on the button, if you can see what you're doing, like that, so that it's snug at the top. And then we want to twist them together if you can. I've only turned it over about 1 centimeter, so I don't want to have too much of the wire wasted going through the button. So that's what I've done there. And now we turn this over and we thread up our strings that are left. Like when it cooperates. Try again. There we go, that'll work. And we want to put these ends through the holes on the button we haven't used yet. So that's one. And then thread up the other one. Trust me, you cannot get them through without a needle, and if you can, you must be really special. Like that. And now I'm just going to trim that because it's easier to tie two things together if they're around the same length. And that's all we're doing, just tying these together on the other side of the button. Another way to secure the flower to the wire, like so. Next thing we want to do is we want to glue the button to the back of the flower when my glue gun works. Push down. There we go. So just go between the button and the flower and push it in, and then do the other side so that you have it secured like so, without burning yourself. So if I turn that over, you can see the button's secured to the back. Flower's getting a bit mungled, but it's all good. Now we want to put our little calyx on, like so. Don't worry about the strings, we'll deal with them later. Now we get a bit of the flower tape, about that much. No precise measurement needed. And to do this, you need to get it up as high as it'll go. Actually, a good idea also is to put a bob of glue there. Because the wire and all that is porous, the glue will help stick it together. Let's give that a second to cool off a bit. And then we'll put the paper tape on. It's not paper, is it? It's plastic. Right. And then you start winding. Now you've got to pull it out a bit as you wind. And turn it over, pull it out, turn it over. You've got to pull it out to activate the glue. And try and spin the flower while keeping the wire straight, and that gives it a more regular thickness. All the way down. Now when you get to the end, this is wire, so it will be sharp. So fold it up and then keep going, and it will make like a broader end on it. Now we're coming back up a little bit, and I don't need that much, so I'm going to pull that off. Just twist it away. And that is our flower, our rose completed. Snip off the two edges. And there you go. That's the rose all put together. I'll get organised to do the daisy next, and then we'll put them in the posy. Next we got to put the daisies on their wire. Now I put them both on the same wire because I like to. But the first thing we've got to do is put their leaves on, because it's really hard to do it later. So these leaves are actually connected by a little ring. I hope you can see that right there, that I need to get the wire through. And oh, there's a bit of right there. So if I don't put these on first, I can't do it later, basically. So you just got to put them on. Where's the other one? There. And you've got to get them facing opposite directions, because we're going to put a flower on each end. So we've done that bit first. That's good. Now we have our buttons like before on the rose. So we'll put the button on the way we want to see it. Then we want to bend this over, and it's about 1 centimetre. Bring it down enough so that we can get it back through the other hole. I'll hold this up in a minute so you can see what I mean by the other hole. When I get it through. Alright, push it right to the end. Now, you can see there, it's through opposite holes. We need the other holes to pull the thread through. Alright, so we'll just bend that over and do the other end. That way we're not going to lose everything. Doesn't matter if the buttons aren't the same, as long as you can get your needle through them. Bend it over. and put it through the opposite hole on the button, and the same. Right, I'm not going to try and twist these because it actually hurts my fingers. I should have had pliers, but you get the idea. What I might do, no, I won't, because that'll make it harder. We will carry on, and the knot will help with the glue on it. So once again, same as the rows, thread up your coloured threads. These are the ones from the center. Remember, we left them long so we could hold on to them. Well, they're coming in handy now, and we're going to thread them through the holes that aren't used on the button. So that's one, and the other one. Remember, fold over your ends so that you haven't got fluff to deal with, and it does make it a little bit easier to thread your thread. And put that through the other hole. Now, I'm not going to repeat the tying on of the buttons because it is the same as the rows. So I'll come back once I've tied these all on, and we will do the gluing and put the tape on. If you see here, I've done the gluing and the wrapping of the cotton just like we did on the rows earlier on both ends. It's not completely sucked down, but it's enough to do the next step. Our leaves are still moving in the middle, which is what we want. So we get ourselves a decent piece of this. Always get more of this than you think, because you never know how much you're going to need. And this is the same as doing the rows, except we need to incorporate the leaf. So always start on the opposite angle of the way you want to go, and you wrap a little bit to get it started. Make sure you keep pulling, that activates the glue. And now we're going to go down. You've got to get it started. There we go. Make sure you pull. If you do not pull, it will not stick. Now I want this leaf to be just there. So the way we put the leaf in is that we put the two away, and we need to wrap one to the stem. So I'm going to go one more around, and then it should be in the right spot. Them out the way. They're really annoying unless you keep a hold of them. Right, now we're going to go around the stem of the chosen leaf. Done that. Now we go below it. And that has secured that leaf to where we want it. If you can spin the wire, it's easier than spinning the flower or wrapping the tape. So just keep it between your fingers and spin with this hand down here to get you where you want. You still want it to be on an angle, otherwise you're never going to get to the other end. Alright, so now we're coming up to this end. We want it about, we want a little bit of it near there, so we want it to there. So I just got to get the tape up to there, like so. There we go. Now push this down, pick which leaf is going to be the one stuck to the stem, and push the other two down. Bring that up and wrap it around. Try not to turn the leaf over if you possibly help it. And then hold everything out the way so you can finish. Wrapping over the yarn that was glued down all the way to the top, and then pulling reverse direction to close it off, because we're now going down again if we can get past the leaves. Thank you. I'm going to wrap under that leaf. Now I should have just enough to activate the glue right there. So we've got the leaves attached, we've got the stem wrapped, and both ends. Now, we want to bend this not in the center. We want to be a little bit off center because it looks better to me when the daisies aren't the same height. So we've got that about there. Then we pick up our rows and we put our rows between the two. So my daisies need to go a little bit lower. And then the rose goes in the middle. That's pretty cool. Now you also want to tilt the flowers because the way I'm looking at them is the way they'll be in the posy. So tilt the flowers so you can see them. Alright, so I'm happy with that. So now we get our big leaf right here. Now figure out where you want him. You want him to be behind the rose. So he will sit about there. That looks right. So we'll just put a blob of glue on him and the stems just to hold them in place. Just kink that one in there so he gets included. Alright, so they're sort of joined together. And I'll put him down for a sec. Now we get our paper doilies. Now, you would have seen these just at the beginning. I'll get everything out. I will have got everything out at the beginning. This is a paper doily that is approximately 11 centimeters across. You can use wrapping paper if you like, if you don't have doilies. Either one will work. And all I've done is cut halfway to the middle on one side. So we place that into the middle. And then we fold this up like so. And then we fold this up when it cooperates like so. So it makes a little bit of a wrapping for the flower. Scrunch it in a little bit. So yep, that looks right. So that's all nice around our little posy. Oh, we have a nice short bit left. That's all we need. And we just wrap all of that together, holding it. Yes, it will mangle a little bit as I go, but I will fix it in a minute. Remember that the doily is paper, so you've got to be gentle with it. So I'm just going to the bottom, wrap the bottom up. Everything's turned around. That's handy. And just bring everything back to where you want it. And that is your posy done. These can fiddle around with, that's why we used wire. And it's all done.